Right. Well, hello. So today I wanted to do something different. Rather than just play something for you, I wanted to give you guys a sneak peek at what I've been working on for the past year, which is a new record called Astounding Stories Volume 1. And what this is there was a magazine in 1930 that came out called Astounding Stories of Super Science. You know, it's one of those sort of great, bad, early sci-fis. And some of them were pretty cool. So I stream on Twitch, some of you know. And one of the things that I wanted to do was sort of try to force myself to write a soundtrack to some of these early sci-fi stories, and to do it while I was narrating them. So we went through and we actually read 12 different stories from the first two magazines, from the first two issues of Astounding Stories. And we recorded all of those, and then as I was doing it, I came up with some themes that I would play for it. And so these, and then I then produced out into full soundtracks and recorded. And so that's what this record is. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and put a preview on, and you'll get the idea. It's part audiobook, part soundtrack, part prog rock record, maybe a little of all that. So let's see here. I can play one of these for you guys. We need to pull that up and go. To the accompaniment of a crashing roar not unlike rumbling thunder, the proud Colossus building, which a few minutes before had reared its 60 stories of artistic architecture towards the blue dome of the sky, crashed in a rugged, dusty heap of stone, brick, cement, and mortar. The steel framework, like the skeleton of some prehistoric monster, still reared to dizzying heights, but in a bent and twisted shape of grotesque outline. No one knew how many lives were snuffed out in that avalanche. Previews. So that was from Mad Music, which was actually the only one from the second issue of Astounding Stories, the February issue that I used. But it was, how could I not use a song, do a story called Mad Music, which is a really cool story about a violin player who comes across the ability to bring down buildings with his violin. So it's a really interesting and fun early story. All right, so the second story that we did, what is the second story we did? Is The Cave of Horror. And The Cave of Horror was written by Captain S.P. Meek, who eventually becomes Major S.P. Meek, and I think Colonel. But he was from the early writer, and he has these series of stories that have two characters. It's Dr. Bird from the Bureau of Standards and Agent Carnes from the Bureau of the Secret Service, and these two guys go out and solve crimes together. And it was sort of this really great early 1930s stuff. And so this is from The Cave of Horror. And the mystery here is that someone's eating tourists in Mammoth Cave.
And swung through an arc, and there was a deafening crash. A grenade exploded on the back of the monster. They heard an unearthly scream, but before they could reach the injured creature, it began to move, slowly at first, and more rapidly, slithering over the floor in retreat. After it, quick! Cried Dr. Don't let him get away! Barnes jerked his automatic out and began pouring a stream of bullets into the fleeing monster.
Cave of Horror, which is pretty cool. No, I didn't listen to any Pink Floyd. I have no Pink Floyd influence at all right there. So the third story that we did was a story called Phantoms of Reality. And Phantoms of Reality was the sort of main story in the very first issue of Astounding Stories. And it was about this, again, sort of older English gentleman, and suddenly he invites his friend over and he says, hey, I know you've known me for a long time, but I'm actually not from this world. And I have this device that can take you to the fourth dimension, and I want you to come with me on this adventure. And so that's what this whole story is about. And this one, it's not, I do mostly electronic music, but I really wanted to try to do a full symphonic type soundtrack for this, and push that and see what I could do that would work. So this is a preview of Phantoms of Reality.
Or do you want to go down to work tomorrow? Pretend this never happened.
Right, so that was Phantoms of Reality. If that, that sort of galloping beat, you can just imagine horses going across a beautiful landscape and castles in the distance. And of course, he does turn out to be the king. So there you go. All right, so the last story that we did was a story called The Beetle Horde. And this is my favorite of the stories for a lot of weird reasons. On the surface, it's a story about this giant swarm of beetles that swarms out and takes over the world, and they have to battle against it. But it's really a story about these two academics who just hate each other, and they just don't believe the other's theories, and this whole sort of world disaster comes from these battle between these two academics, which is really hysterical to me. So this is The Beetle Horde. That is it's more of a love scene type cue, because of course the guys, when they go into the hole in the Arctic, they emerge and they find this subterranean species of humans, and of course they fall in love and all of that stuff. So there you go. There's a sneak peek of Astounding Stories. It's a fun, very different type of record, and I'm really proud of it. And I'm hoping to use a bunch of the keys for instrumentals, but I thought it would be a fun thing to do today for our Music Online, is just share a little bit of that with you. So I hope you enjoyed it, and take care. Peace. We'll see you again probably tomorrow around the same time. Cheers.